The Incredibles lore seems to be popping off, and it's pretty easy to see why. The story of how the Supes go from society's champions to being forced underground to seemingly being massacred off-screen one by one is pretty dark subject matter that you wouldn't expect to see in your average Pixar film. But that's the thing about The Incredibles. It's not your average Pixar film. It's incredible. But on a serious note, the escapades of Operation Kronos have set the internet ablaze, with people starting to ask what other superheroes from other media could Syndrome put on a t-shirt, or I guess a slideshow in this case. So seeing as how I'm the guy that covers those matchups that people talk in passing, I wanted to actually, put some logic into this frame of conversation. So I decided to plug Metro Man from Megamind, another subversive masterpiece in its own right, into the Incredibles verse to see whether or not Syndrome and his Omnidroid could actually take out the champion of Metro City. So let's just say that for this matchup, Metro Man is a hero that exists in the Incredibles, and before Buddy tests his machine on his childhood hero, he wants to test it up against one last superhero to make sure that it's as strong as it could possibly be. So he lures Metro Man to the island akin to how he lured all the other superheroes, and now we've got the fight for today's video, as we're going to power scale both the Incredibles verse as well as Metro Man to see whether or not he has what it takes to survive Operation Kronos. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, so if you like what you see, I implore you to stick around, as I drop multiple shorts a week, multiple videos a week sometimes, and daily polls and content. So considering how it's all free, you're gonna get a lot of things out of me. So with that being said, let's get into the topic that you clicked the video to find out. For this scenario, let's say that Syndrome lures Metro Man onto the island during the events of the first film. So naturally, he's going to be going up against the strongest, most advanced model of the Omnidroid, being the Mark 10. And so I think with that being said, we should talk about how strong it is. And it's actually pretty surprising. But I mean, it's not that surprising considering the fact that worse/weaker models were still able to defeat the various renowned supes of the glory days. And while I'm not going to say that this guy sold the entire superhero community, the fact that Lucius and Bob state in the film that they don't really see any of their bigger friends that were superheroing with them during said glory days is pretty telling that this robot took out some of the heavy hitters of that time period within the community. Now, I'm not going to go over each of the 16 heroes because that would be kind of a waste of time. Rather, I'll just talk about the benchmark that, he gets a lot of his AP scaling from, as he was able to defeat Hypershock, a character who had the ability to generate earthquakes due to his seismic abilities. And though you could say this is kind of an environmental thing and wouldn't really scale to attack potency, the NSA file on this soup states that he can actually augment his fist output to comparable ends of a magnitude 6 earthquake, which would at worst make his punch while in the state equivalent to some of the weaker atomic bombs. But seeing as how his powers are tied to his seismic abilities, I don't think it's a stretch to scale his fist output in the state to the actual total seismic energy that a magnitude 6 earthquake would output. So when looking at this statement from this point of view, you can actually argue that Hypershock had a punch powerful to lay out entire mountains, as it would be equivalent to nearly 300 megatons. To put that power into perspective, that's nearly 6 times more powerful than the largest atomic bomb ever tested, the Tsar Bomba, which had an output of 50 megatons. This all comes back to the Omnidroid, as Syndrome, a character who's super obsessed with the superheroes, should have taken that into effect when lining up these opponents for his Omnidroid. And seeing as how Hypershock was actually able to defeat one of the weaker Omnidroids, it's fair enough to assume that Syndrome saw this guy in action and he designed his next Omnidroid to be durable enough to endure his punches. And keep in mind, this is the Mark IV we're talking about. So obviously a Mark 10 Omnidroid at worst would be made of material strong or durable enough to endure like mountain level attacks. This is consistent with 2 showings in the film. Firstly, it's able to endure blows from Mr. Incredible. He actually never penetrates the robot's hind. Only the robot can penetrate its own, durability, which means that the durability we've talked about would also scale to its AP and its striking force. But the fact that it scales to Mr. Incredible in this way is pretty, incredible, as the guy is stated to be the strongest and greatest superhero of all time, meaning that he should upscale Hypershock. And 2, the robot was actually able to endure being launched from space and surviving the subsequent crash. It literally no-sold it. This is important because, you know, on-screen time indicates that this trip took around a minute or 30 seconds. And in the film, it's implied that this on-screen metric is actually very, you know, accurate to how long this trip actually lasts. As the Pars take this same rocket ship to America during the middle of the robot's rampage and are able to, you know, get there before any major damages occur. This is important because Syndrome's island is demonstrated to be very, far, as like nighttime scenes in that environment are typically cut by daytime sections of the mainland, so it's probably on the other side of the planet, and the Omnidroid could tank a rocket crash while traveling at such high speeds, granting him unironically island-level durability, and he just shrugged this off once again. As for the robot's speed, regular humans in the Incredibles verse can react to light-based attacks, so this bona fide soup killer should get relativistic to FTL combat speeds as well as reaction times. This is consistent as it scales to Mr. Incredible, a character who, while off-guarded and arguably tired, could react to light at such pace that it's been calculated that he moves at FTL speeds. And once again, I want to say that that's just them throwing a punch or dodging something, right? These aren't metrics that would scale to their travel speed. Just want to point that out for everyone. It's just combat speed. But yeah, with that being said, the Omnidroid is very cracked. But is it enough to take down Metro Man? Let's see what he brings to the table. Metro Man is pretty much the god tier of the Megamind verse, so he just naturally upscales everyone, right? But as a baseline, he should upscale Titan, a character whose power is derived from Metro Man's dandruff, like unironically. And even then, Titan has a character who can chuck skyscrapers to a multi-city block level degree, as well as disperse Megamind's robots and cause a small town level shockwave on top of that. And while we could just unquantably say that Metro Man is stronger due to Titan running away in fear of him, some guy on Reddit unironically took the difference between, you know, dandruff and an organism to try to find like a difference in power, and he was able to determine that Metro Man would theoretically be 277 billion times stronger than Titan. And just using his city block level feat as, you know, Titan's peak in power, even though it's really casual on his part, Metro Man would have country level attack potency due to this method of calc stacking. And while calc stacking isn't wrong, this metric is only theoretical. It wouldn't really mean anything if Metro Man didn't have any lore or statements to support himself being at this level of power. But luckily for us, he actually does, as in the film, Metro Man was being threatened with a death ray that Megamind constructed, in which the beam was said to be able to power and generate a beam that was made up of the concentrated power of the sun. Assuming that this beam would only be equivalent to 1 second of the sun's output, and this would still put the beam's potency in those multi-continental ranges. But seeing as how it takes roughly a minute and a half to really fully charge, and it's been determined that this beam would actually be in the exatons in terms of power. Pretty close to moon level, unironically. And while Megamind doesn't actually get the chance to hit Metro Man with the beam, the director of the film, or one of the writers I should say, has gone on record to say that Metro Man probably would have survived it. And it's pretty consistent with the film, as Metro Man had to pretend to be weakened the copper on top of this weapon hitting him to fool the general public into actually believing he could have died. Megamind believes that the weapon wouldn't have even worked on him. He says in that Metro Man's monument that, yo, I didn't think this was gonna actually work. And the art book for the film has gone on record to say that the only thing that defeated Metro Man was a midlife crisis. It actually goes on to say that Metro Man was pretty much invulnerable and bored with hero work and all that, right? Because Megamind could never ever hope to challenge him, which is consistent with the fact that the latter considers him invincible. Going into that premise that nothing Megamind could ever make would ever hope to hurt or defeat Metro Man, and here's where we find some consistency with Metro Man being a multi-continental character, as Megamind's a character who can create spaceships that are made up of cities, right? With the kinetic energy of these large bodies of land being in those island level ranges. And there's also the fact that Robot's suit is unironically made of things that can survive explosions so vast that they can be seen from orbit. Like this one right here is unironically country level. And I think it's fair to say at this point, Metro Man will be a character that at worst would be in those island to multi-continental ranges, and that's really it. That's how little of his full power that we see. Like, everything we say, and even with these new metas, it's still a low ball due to Metro Man's role in the verse. But how about his speed? And well, this kind of goes without saying, but Metro Man is massively faster than the speed of light, as he's able to perform a day's worth of activities in like less than a second's time for Megamind's perception, with Megamind being a character who can react to lightning, lasers. And while I don't really scale this next part to Megamind's like combat speed or anything, what's really important is that he's able to perceive it. As in the beginning of the film, he's able to perceive Metro Man while he's in a craft flying from their doomed planets that stated to be in a different galaxy or another universe if you really want to highball it. I just want to point out that Megamind can perceive Metro Man while flying at these distances, but you know, he couldn't perceive Metro Man just walking around on Ironic, which is going to show you how fast he actually happens to be. So I think it's safe to say that Metro Man is an absolute beast once he was thought to be this water-shaped level farter fraud, but new metas have come to light to really signify how strong he actually happens to be. He's a guy that's so powerful that he got bored and retired. He's literally Saitama before Saitama. He's cooler too. Is that a hot take? I hope not.
I love you, Metro Man!
And I love you, random citizen.
So with the stats of both of our combatants covered, could the Omnidroid and Syndrome take out Metro Man? And well, it's not looking that good at all, as Metro Man is a character who's probably dozens of times stronger than the Omnidroid's best durability showings, whereas that thing gets into the island level ranges at best, whereas that's kind of where Metro Man gets at worst. So I think that Metro Man is gonna just piece this guy up. There's also the fact that he's way faster than anyone in the Incredibles. You might be surprised with the FTS scaling that series gets, but that's once again something that Metro Man gets at worst just by walking around. Like, you don't get any more casual than that. Eating french fries. He eats french fries faster than anyone in the Incredibles verse could perceive him. So he's just an insane character to put up in this matchup. So no, Syndrome has nothing in his prowess that would ever hope to help him defeat Metro Man. As once again, Metro Man proves why he's so good at this, he got bored at it, as today's winner is Metro Man. But hey, if you somehow disagree with me, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Maybe I'm actually wrong. Is there any planetary incredible skin that you guys know about? Because genuinely, I don't see a single win con that Syndrome's got here. But once again, I'll see you guys next week with a new video. But until then, stay Big G fans.